The hero of this week's Parsha is Eliezer. Eliezer sent on this mission to go find a wife for his master's son, for Yitzchak. And he has a whole discussion with Avram before he goes exactly what to do. Don't look at any of the local girls. They're not good. I won't be happy if you get a local girl. And they have a whole discussion of what's okay, what's not okay. And Eliezer, to his credit, is the ultimate agent. He does exactly what Avram wants from him. And sure enough, he gets the wonderful shidduch, the wonderful match, and he brings home Rivka. Actually, it says that Eliezer, before he went, was a little bit disappointed. He was scorned. Why? Because Eliezer, besides for being Avram's eved, Avram's slave, but he also was, it says he was doilo mashke mitoras rabo. Eliezer was like the Rosh Hashiva. Or maybe the one right under. When Avram would say the class, so if people didn't understand anything, so Eliezer would go and Eliezer would teach it over. People that had questions, if Avram's not available, they always came to speak to Eliezer. Eliezer was the one that lived by all the ideals that Avram was trying to teach others. It happens to be, he also had a daughter. So Eliezer said to Avram, "You're looking for a match for your son? I got the perfect one. I got a daughter." So Avram says to Eliezer these words, which are a little bit difficult to understand. He says that you are urur, you are cursed. Now, not personally you're cursed, but you have a genetic deficiency, a genetic problem. And that is that you come from Cham, the son of Noach, and he was cursed by his father. So therefore, because you're cursed, I'm Baruch and Urur and cursed, they can't make a shidduch together. Now, if he's such a great person, how could it be that in spite of the fact, just because who his grandfather was, but apparently it is that way. So Avram says, we're building a nation here, we're building the Jewish people, Ein Urur mistabik bebaruch, someone cursed, someone blessed, it can't work. So therefore, so now he's disappointed, and he has to go and look for someone. Interestingly, how many times does his name appear in the Parsha? The main character of the Parsha. The answer is 0. Not once. It always refers to him as the Eved. This is actually the slave. Eventually somebody gets promoted and he gets called the Ish, right? But he's the Eved. Now, when he's called the Eved, this is not derogatory. It's actually the greatest compliment possible. Because what it's saying is he represented Avram. He did exactly what Avram wanted from him. And because he did Avram's, in other words, sometimes, in my world at least, when somebody is looking to get married, so the parents play a very important role in finding you the person, not who you're going to marry, but who you're going to go out with at least. And so they talk to the shadchan, they talk to the matchmaker. What happens if you're looking for one thing, and your parents don't want that? They're looking for someone else. So they're going to give one message to the matchmaker, then you're going to go meet the girl, and it's never going to work. So you need to make sure that the person that's representing you knows what ideals you're looking for. If you're looking for one thing, they're looking for another thing, the message is always going to get garbled and everything's going to be messed up. So Eliezer, he may have some kind of self-interest. By saying he did exactly what Avram wanted, it's showing that he didn't think about himself, he didn't think about anything else. He said, I'm doing whatever will please Avram Avinu. We have an idea called Shlucho Shel Adam Kimoso, which means the agent of someone is like the person himself, which means if I go over to someone and I give him a ring and I say, can you please go give the ring to that woman over there and say to her, Harei at mikudeshet l'Rabinowitz. Behold, you're married, not to me, the guy giving you the ring, but you're married to Rabinowitz. So the halacha is that I'm married because he acted on my behalf. So I'm sitting here minding my own business. 10 days later, the guy goes, gives her the ring. Everybody comes over to me, wishes me a mazel tov. Because I am now married, at least the first step of marriage, because I gave the ring. I didn't really give the ring, but the messenger is like me. So his action that he does is a proxy, and he does it for me, and therefore I get the credit for it. The story's told that one time the Chafetz Chaim needed to go to a certain event to speak, but he wasn't able to go. So he asked Meir Shapiro to go on his behalf, and to please deliver a certain message for him. So he said, sure. So this Rabbi Meir Shapiro, the one who instituted the Daf Yomi, so he goes to the event, and they say, if you're here on behalf of the Chafetz Chaim, so of course you're going to be the first speaker. So he says, actually, I would rather go last, if you don't mind. So he said, why do you want to go last? So he says, it's a little bit of a Hasidic explanation, but he says, I am the Shaliach of the Chafetz Chaim, and the Shaliach of the Chafetz Chaim has the power like the Chafetz Chaim himself. Once I give the speech, I'm not his agent anymore. So let me speak at the end. And when I speak at the end, I'll have longer that I got to be the Chafetz Chaim, because I'm acting now on behalf of the Chafetz Chaim. So I'm not just acting, but I am. I become the Chafetz Chaim, because I'm the agent of the Chafetz Chaim. So let me speak at the end. That way it's a longer time that I would get to do that. Eliezer goes and he acts on behalf of Avram, and it says that by the end of the Parsha, because he did such a great job, it raised him, acting for Avram, and by the end of the Parsha, he's no longer Arur. He becomes Baruch. Unfortunately, that also means that Yitzchak had a wife, so his daughter wasn't available. So Yitzchak wasn't available to marry his daughter. But this raised him, and this is what raised him to the level that he actually did become Baruch. So when a person goes and they aspire to something and they act in a certain way, so it raises them and they become a much better person. A mashal, a parable is told. A little bit of an interesting parable. I got excited when I spoke about masks, but it was written a few years ago. It has nothing to do with today's masks. That there was somebody that he wanted to marry a nobility, a princess or something like that, but he felt that it would never work. They would never be interested in him because he had a face of a commoner. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but he carried himself like a commoner. He needed the face of nobility. So he went and he got an expert mask maker to make him a mask that he could wear, that this way he wouldn't look like a commoner. He would look like nobility. And sure enough, it worked. He snagged the ultimate shidduch, the ultimate match, and he was married to this princess. And he would walk around, and he is, of course, now, and he never took off the mask, because behind the mask is just a regular guy. So he's always walking around like that. Well, one day, a guy from the old country comes to visit him, he sees him, and he says, "What's with this farce? What kind of game is this?" And he says, no, don't touch. And the guy's like, "This is not who you are. You can't live a life like that." And he pulls off the mask. And to his surprise, he discovers that his face has now changed. And his face now looks like it looked in the mask. Because he carried himself a certain way for so long, it changed him and it caused him to reach a level of greatness. There's this famous idea from the Sefer HaChinuch. The Sefer HaChinuch says that when you eat the carbon Pesach, you're not allowed to break any bones. So you have to sit there, you have to eat every little last piece of meat that's on the carbon, but you're not allowed to break any of the bones. So that means you gotta eat very, very carefully. Okay, says the Sefer HaChinuch. Why? He says the Jews were a bunch of slaves in Egypt, and they were not used to being nobility. They were used to being beaten up and looking in the garbage for scraps to eat. Hashem needs to take us and raise us to become Mamlechas Kaihanim V'Gai Kodesh. He has to raise us to this high level. So he says to us, when you sit down to eat the carbon Pesach, this good, delicious roasted lamb, you don't take it and go and start munching on it. You got to sit there and very carefully nibble at it so you don't break any bones. Why? Says the Sefer HaChinuch, because Adam nifal kifi pulosav. Which means that the mitzvos, if you, not only mitzvos, but when you act in a certain way, even if you're not on that level, but it changes you to sort of get you to that level. It's funny, I remember now, I wasn't planning on saying this, but years and years ago, back when some of these guys here were in Torah Academy, so we had an idea that we're going to start having a school uniform. So there's a big debate. Yes, school uniform, no school uniform. Then they decided a school uniform. So the first week that we had a school uniform, everyone decided that the kids behaved better. True, not true, I don't know. That's what everyone decided. The kids behaved better. Why? So they said because when they're walking around with such a so that causes a change in the person. It raises you. It makes you more dignified. So therefore that goes and it makes a change in who a person is. One last thought, and that is Rabbi Victor Miller said that when he was in Slobodka, so one time they had a chabur, they had a group, and every month they would get together and they would work on a certain midah, a certain character trait. So they said, okay, what's going to be this month's character trait? So somebody said, let's work on emes, always telling the truth. So there was this old musarnik there, and he said, everybody works on emes. Everybody works on like telling the truth. We're not going to do that. We're going to work on sheker, on lies. What does that mean? It means that when a person says that, it would be a nice thing to do, but I'm not really ready for that. It would look funny if I did that. I'm not on that level. So he says, pretend like you are on that level. Just raise yourself up and always act like you're on a greater level than you are. Right? You say, what? I'm going to go and show, and I'm going to shuckle. People are going to think, when did he become such a tzaddik? Or I'm going to wear, I don't know, I'm going to do this. People are going to look at me funny. They're going to say, he's not on that level. You know what we're going to do is sheker. We're going to act that way even if we're not on that level. And what ends up happening is that when you do it and you do it and you do it, it causes the person to change, it causes the person to grow, and they become even greater. Thank you very much.